Hello, welcome once again to another episode of Topography, brought to you by viewers like you. This is episode 4 of Topography. Now, this is an interesting thing. Is normally I remember the episodes of a show once I upload it to YouTube, and then for me to announce it, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is still early in its iteration, and I can still count, 1 through 4. So it's just sort of funny. Anyway. This episode, we are going to be looking at the Apocalypse map. And I feel that this map, by far, is one of the most game-changing maps that has come out in a long while. And so definitely, if you don't have Superman Legion of Superheroes Apocalypse map, and I think like New Genesis is on the other side, definitely get a hold of that map. Okay, so why is this map the Broke Wars? Okay, well, first off, we're going to look at the top of the key, as I like to call it, where the classic Sentinel is sitting. Again, with much dust on him, because I have not dusted since last episode. And we can see that we have a elongated standard starting area. That is important, okay? A lot of people do not pay attention to what type of starting area you have, because a standard starting area means that you're going to have normal tempo in the game. Normal tempo means your opponent is 2 squares in and wide, and you're 2 squares in and wide, versus several squares in short. Okay, like the last map. If you're several squares in and short, then it allows for hyper aggression. It allows for you to navigate between 2 points very quickly, and it makes the collision happen between the forces a lot sooner. Okay, so teams that need to bide a little time, you are looking for standard, and I do emphasize this, standard starting lines. Okay. So, all right, now let's go into why some of these elements are really important. So we're going to zoom in right there. Okay. Now, I know Mr. Sentinel is probably a little bit too big for you all to notice, so I'm just going to move him back for a little bit. The big thing about this starting area right here that's nice is that if you need to turtle or be in a safe position, if you start over here, if your opponent does not fly, okay, if your opponent does not fly, this map is going to be ridiculous because it will take them almost forever and a day before they get to you. And if you have your wonderful Iron Pharaoh with his Golden Falcon soaring, this is great because he's chilling off in the corner in the starting area, knowing that he's going to kill his opponent before they even get close to touching him whatsoever. So if you have any ability, to use like a character like Bill, Agent of AIM, this map is awesome because you just be like, yeah, shoot you some more, and yeah, shoot you, because I don't need direct line of fire to shoot you. So any character that can just take shots or use any effects that don't require direct line of fire, this map is great. In particular with this area, in the starting area, you have immediate access right here on L2 to go up to L3 into higher elevation. Okay, so that's a really big deal because you have immediate access, if you so desire, to higher elevation. All right, so we're going to keep our focus on this side of the map, and we're going to look at a key element, which is these blocking terrain Infernal squares. Okay, now these squares cannot be destroyed, yet they're blocking terrain. Okay, if you are dealing with a rock tournament, guess what, these suckers are clear terrain. But if you're not dealing with a rock tournament, then yeah, these are blocking terrain that cannot be destroyed. This means that if you have a standardized character or characters that want to hide out in here and you want to just put barrier up and be that guy, you can. because they can't chisel through this with freaking Kurt's hammer, okay? You can't. All right, so that's what the orange rules say. The orange rules sort of supersede everything else. So that creates a problem for your opponent, because if you do decide to turtle up back in here, you have a lot of space and a lot of terrain that you can see because you're on elevation 2. If you're in this area right, I'm gonna make sure I can show this. If you're in that elevation area, all this area right here, you can automatically just have line of fire out to the other sections of elevated terrain. So let's zoom out a bit and then you can see what I mean. So right here can shoot downward to everything in this little canal here. If you block things off here, once your barrier comes down, you have full line of fire to everything that's on elevation 2 over in here. You also have the ability, if you wanted to make a focal choke point right in this little canal down in the middle. Okay, so there's a lot that can be done in your starting area, okay, at the top. All right, so you might say, well, okay, Dark Logos, this map is completely symmetrical, you know, so everything that you said can be applied on the other side of the map. And that is true. Everything that I said can, to an extent, be applied on the other side of the map, but there are some key things. And these key things are places of transition. Now, no, please do apologize, because this is going to be really, really tough. And I prefer for you all to be able to see your own map when it comes to this point, okay? Now, when we're dealing with our starting areas, both starting areas, and I'm gonna zoom out. Yeah, I'm gonna go over here. Okay, both starting areas, and I'm gonna point them out, have their elevation, initial elevations to transition to elevation 2 on the D line and on the the L line. No, take that back. One is on L and the other one is on M. Okay, so that does matter, because again, if we're going to look at the bottom half of the map, when we can transition up to elevation 2, we have hindering support right here on the edge, okay? Versus on the other end of the map, so I sort of pan back over, we can see that we really don't have hindering terrain advantages. We have a hindering terrain right here, okay? So what it does is that if we're at the bottom of the key, okay, we're at the bottom, we have access to the most amount of total hindering terrain. Let me rephrase that. The most amount of spread out hindering terrain. It's still the same amount of squares, but it's really the most sort of spaciousness of hindering terrain, because we're able to see and cover more space being here and here versus all being clumped up together on the other end of it just being right here, okay? So that's very, very important, okay? So let's start breaking down some other key elements, and it really comes down to the midfield, or we break it down to the midfield. And the midfield is the keyest part of this entire thing, okay? First off, when we're looking at the midfield, we have to notice is that each side has one exit down into that valley and then one exit up into the elevated mid terrain, okay? Now, because of that, that means that if you're able to have any sort of running shot and not even super long range, you just need to have decent range. So let's look at our ice frosty blue Sentinel here, and he has a range of 7. Okay, just straight 7. So we're going to count it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so he can see all the way up to this line here. If he so chooses, he can running shot out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and he can cover not only this valley down here, this area over here, but also he can start shooting on Phoenix Buster over here, crossing over the elevation into elevation 2. I mean, not just because he's still on elevation 2, sorry. Just hitting that direct diagonal, okay? You have a lot of space to just play with and also to hide behind, just because of that blocking terrain. Now note, if my Sentinel was a standardized character, we can go back to where this big infernal pit area is, and we can just say, hey, I'm going to surprise you because I fly. I'm going to fly over the infernal pit thing. Sorry, I'm going to fly over the infernal pit thing and run and shot you. Bam, there you go. And you can do that from complete safety. So that's a big thing to think about. Definitely when you're dealing with grounded hypersonic speeders, they hate this map because they have to go the long way on everything. And it's a little bit hard to see where the points of transition are, because if we do say, for example, I'm gonna move the tripod over, sorry, move the camera over a little bit. If we do say, all right, I'm up over here, I come off of this starting area here, I run up, I go to my point of transition from here to here and back up, and I'm going to try to get someone down there, I have to either loop around this way and take a long way in my directions, looping around here, or if you have any or try to engage whatever opposition is right by my Frosty Sentinel here. So then I have to engage it that way. So to an extent, on this map, you can say it's wide open, but also has a lot of choke points. Because if, let's say, for example, the game is primarily being dominated by elevation 2, then navigating through elevation 1 could allow for a person to gain a lot of sizable evasion. Yeah, you could gain a lot of sizable evasion. Just for the pure fact, definitely if you're dealing with like a stationary attacker situation, they have to reposition themselves. And let me sort of point out like one of the worst places to be on the map is. And I'm gonna move Phoenix Buster to that location. Okay. So now Phoenix Buster is on that thin line in the middle. Now you might say, well, Dark Logos, this doesn't make sense. Why is this the worst place to be on the entire map? It seems like you're dead center. You should be able to shoot almost anybody that you want to. You know what's going on, okay? Now note, I have him lined up, not diagonal, and I'll point out the disadvantage of being in a diagonal. Okay, let's say that the sides are the way that they are seen now. That I have Phoenix Buster and I have Frosty Sentinel there just fighting it out. If there are any other combatants that are not on elevation 2, I cannot see them, okay? And again, if you want to, you could pretend that the Phoenix Buster is just a standard character or whatever if you wanted to. Okay, so there's that problem as I sort of zoom out a little bit more. The other problem is this elevation 1 right here is completely underneath the nose of Phoenix Buster, and there is absolutely nothing that Phoenix Buster can do about it. Okay? Also, Phoenix Buster cannot see my old school standard Sentinel in the starting area. Well, actually, technically he can't because he's a colossal. I mean, yeah, they're colossal, but let's say if he was a standard size figure, then no, he wouldn't be able to see it. So then we have a problem you have a least amount of visibility, the most amount of exposure for the least amount of gains. So you really want to try to play it to the side, because even if you play it to the side, you would be able to an extent, protect yourself and sort of funnel the attacks through a certain direction. Now, here's the other big point on this. Okay, so let's, again, like I said, if we had on a diagonal, now I'm able to see both elevations around me to an extent on a direct diagonal from those squares. Okay, I can see on elevation 1 and I can see on elevation 2, but I still have these blind spots in these corners that my opponent can just abuse. So I can see from here, but if I'm outside of that square, just 2 squares over from that, or 1 square over from speed, attack you and just hit you. And again, there's nothing that my opponent can do about it. Okay, so definitely, I know it's like Gen Con comes out and we're past Origins, but I do think that this map is definitely going to show its weight in the meta. Not only is it going to show its weight in the meta, I also do believe that, for a lack of a better word, if your team can't navigate this map, or at least have a plan against this map, you're going to have major problems. Also, improved targeting, ignores elevated, good gosh, dominates on this map. Build Agent of Aim just dominates on this map. So anyway, that is it. If you have any music that you would like to donate to the show or use for the show, just let me know. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. You can also donate to the show at startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. There's a PayPal donate button right there. And last but not least, this show was brought to you by Matt Miller and viewers like you. And so if you have any ideas for a map or something that I should cover in topography, whether it's battle formation or whatnot, I will try to do it to the best of my ability and collection. All right, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.